friends, and welcome back to my channel. I hope everybody's doing okay out there again today. Now, today I am starting my new series, finally. I told you it was coming and here it is, baby. So the series that I'm starting today is something I have been really interested in for a really long time, and that is making things out of resin. Now, I have never actually made anything out of resin before, but I just have this fascination with that high gloss. But seeing something like suspended in resin for some reason like brings this calm to my soul. When I was younger, someone in my family had this paperweight that actually had real crabs and rocks in it, and it was suspended in resin, and I was obsessed with it.
And I think that's really where everything began.
So today what I'm going to attempt to make is something that I didn't find a recipe online for or something I've seen online. It's something that I just genuinely thought of in my brain and want to make. Now today we're going to be making a toothbrush holder and a soap holder because the ones I have in my house right now
are boring and I absolutely
hate them.
So let's get right into it, you guys, and see if I can actually make something cool out of resin because I am so excited to begin this journey and make so much cool shit for you guys. Let's see what I can do.
Alright, so get your molds all set up and ready to go. So I have two resins here. These ones are non-toxic and food safe, but if you are doing it inside, just make sure that you're in a well-ventilated area. You'll need mixing sticks, a little spoon for the colorant, tweezers if you're adding little items into it, gloves, and a torch for the bubbles. For mine, I have some mica powder, some opal flakes, some little dried flowers, and don't forget to get some paper towel to clean your tools before the resin dries on. And of course, make sure you have little containers to measure and mix all of the resin together. Have a timer prepared because you will need to mix the resin for 3 whole minutes. So what I'm going to be attempting today is to be adding these little flowers to the top of each of these little creations. I'm going to add some opal flakes to the majority of the product. Then I'm going to be adding some mica powder to the bottom. Alright, so let's get started, you guys. Before we begin, just pop on those gloves to protect your hands. Now pour 1 part resin into your mixing container. Then make sure you clean off the top really well before you put that lid back on that resin. Now just put equal part of the hardener into the container with the resin. And with the hardener as well, just make sure you clean that off really well before you put the cap back on. Alright, so start your 3-minute timer and it's time to mix it all together. So when you're mixing, just make sure you scrape the sides and the bottom to integrate it well. And to be honest with you guys, I did f up pretty hard here for the entire video. You're supposed to stir it slowly to avoid extreme amount of bubbles, and bitch, there is a lot of bubbles in mine because I did not do that. My bad. Please don't make that same mistake I did. So once the 3 minutes is up, you can start pouring into your silicone molds. So what I was trying to do here was pour a small layer so then I could embed some flower pieces into it. Now what I learned after was you're actually supposed to wait a couple hours for it to dry to be able to do layers. I learned a lot doing this first project for sure. I'm just a mess trying to do her best out here, you guys. So please learn from my mistakes in this video. We'll just have to stay tuned to see if it ends up looking really cool or not. Like a wise man said, a mistake is just a happy accident. Rip Bob Ross. So since I have my first little bit poured there, just make sure you are cleaning your tools in between so it doesn't have the resin harder on there and you can use them again. Alright, you guys, so now is this super fun part, the part that I'm most excited about, and it's putting the little flower pieces into the resin. Now I put them in there and just used a popsicle stick to push them down into the resin so they didn't stick to the sides of the silicone mold. At this point, I was really happy with the placement of the flowers, so I just cleaned up my area to get started on the next part. I then poured equal parts of each again and started to mix for 3 whole minutes. Obviously, you can tell that my resin is all nicely mixed up because there's a ton more bubbles in it than there should be. Now is the time that I'm going to put in those awesome little shards of opal. Also, I completely forgot to open this before I started, so sorry in advance. So at this point, I just kind of eyeballed the amount of opal flakes I wanted, and it ended up being pretty much the perfect amount. Then I just made sure everything was all mixed in really well. Once everything was all mixed together, now I could add it into my silicone mold. Now what I did notice when I started doing this is those flowers started floating up and not staying where I put them. Now this is because I didn't let it set for a couple hours before I added the next layer, something I actually didn't know before I started this, unfortunately. So if you're doing layers like I was trying to do, make sure you let the resin dry for at least 3 to 5 hours before you add the next layer. Once I was done pouring the other layer, I literally whipped up another batch of the resin. Also, I just want to note, this will hurt the absolute shit out of your hands constantly mixing for 3 whole minutes. Honestly, it probably won't hurt as much if I didn't mix like a fucking animal. At this point, I just added in the mica powder. Once again, I kind of just eyeballed the amount I wanted. The only reason I'm not wearing a glove right now is because that goddamn little Ziploc bag was impossible to open with a glove on. So just make sure you do put your gloves back on if you end up taking them off before you are using the resin again. Then I just made sure I mixed it all together well. Once I got it to the color and opaqueness that I liked, I then added it to the molds. Once I was done pouring, I could clearly see the result of mixing too fast. Look at how many bubbles are at the top of the small one, and the big one ends up getting a lot more too. But at this point, I waited 10 minutes to see if more bubbles would rise, and then it was time to burn it with that flame. While you're waiting those 10 minutes, just make sure that you do put something over your resin creations, or else you could get some dust or some gross ass shit in there, and you do not want that. At this point, you get to see how many bubbles did rise, and oh my god, doctor, it's worse than we thought. We have to amputate. Just kidding, we just have to burn the shit out of it. So when you're doing this, guys, just make sure that you're not holding the torch in any one place for too long amount of time, because at that point it can end up making the resin look wavy or yellow when it's dried. Once I was satisfied with the lack of bubbles, I just moved my silicone molds over to another table, covered them, and you let them set for 72 hours, and then we can see what mistake or happy accident I made.
Alright you guys, so it's been a few days and now these are all solid. So as you can see, the bubbles obviously rose to the top after I had done the last debubbling. So I'm going to take you guys over to my table over there and give you a satisfactory
resin unmolding.
Hopefully, regardless of my constant mistakes throughout making these, they end up looking kind of cool. So let's see how they look, you guys. I'm really excited to see how they turned out. Alright you guys, so let's get started and see if I made a happy accident or just a goddamn mistake. Now, this is gonna be really difficult to get out. Roll it out. That seems to be the way. There we go. It's like a push pop, except less delicious. I'm not hating it so far. Lord. We've gotten this far. Come on, baby. Okay, yeah, it's coming. Now I gotta get it from the inside. These things really don't like coming out. This is when you need your fucking husband. Ugh. Holy shit. Okay, we did it. Oh my god. Okay, so the thing I'm first noticing is that we did lose a couple of those little flowers, but it's actually so fucking cute. It looks like a little dirt. It's gonna focus on that one, of course it is. I actually love it for like my first little project, you guys. This isn't bad at all. Obviously there is a shit ton of bubbles, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it looks pretty cool. But it just looks like little dirt with like some leaves and stuff, and it's actually pretty cool. It's like a little sparkly hippie thing. If you look on the inside, you see all the little opal pieces. That's actually so cool. So the first one actually didn't turn out too bad. There are a lot of bubbles and everything, but it actually looks really cool. Like, look at all those flecks of opal in there. That looks so cool. Oh, I am so excited for that. All right, now let's do this one. This one I'm more excited about just because it's bigger and I think I'll see more of the flower pieces. There are a bunch of the flower pieces on the bottom, so that's not really promising, but we'll see. I also assumed this would be a lot easier to take out, so. Okay, yeah, it was. Holy shit. Quite a bit easier. Except for the inside. Okay, even that's pretty good. All right, so this one, as you can see, it's a little bit see-through on the bottom, but still looks kind of cool. I think next time I might put a little bit more of the powder in there. I basically did lose a lot of the flowers to the bottom. So that is another thing. I do have to wait for them to cure, but you can see the little flowers and the little like kind of fern pieces in there too. It's actually not too bad. And yes, obviously I did use an ashtray mold for this, but I thought this looked a lot better than the other ones that were online. But overall, I love the opals. I love the opalescence in it, and I love the fact that this just looks like kind of dirt with flowers. It's like a little ecosystem. It definitely reminds me of that seascape that I found in resin when I was younger, but definitely a lot of the bubbles are in there, which I don't love, but I will definitely mix very slow next time. But the thing I love about both of these is the opal. The opal turned out so good. It suspended perfectly, exactly how I wanted. The mica powder did exactly what I wanted to, and the flowers look really cool. So altogether, it ended up looking kind of what I wanted. There are the few mistakes that I made mixing too fast and not doing in layers. So next time I definitely have to look out for that. But overall, for my first thing, this is actually pretty damn good in my eyes. So I'm really excited to do another project next time and get rid of those bubbles and make awesome layers. All right, you guys, so those are them done. There were a few mistakes, but I think for my first try, that was pretty damn good. And I'm just gonna continue to get better and better from here. So I am so excited to try something else with you guys, get rid of the bubbles next time, and make some really damn cool layers. So stay tuned to see what I'm gonna be making next, because it's gonna be even cooler. So I hope you guys really enjoyed me trying this out for the first time, and I hope you guys learned from my mistakes if you're a beginner like I am, and I hope you guys have a really good rest of your day, and I will see you guys next time for another exciting craft.